Iran expanded its targets this Tuesday, as Reza's been saying, striking the US embassy in Saudi Arabia as Washington begins to pull out many of its staff from the Middle East. An attack from two drones hitting the US embassy in Riyadh, causing a limited fire, according to Saudi Arabia's defense ministry. And the embassy urged Americans to avoid the compound. It followed an attack on the US embassy in Kuwait, the embassy there announcing it's closed until further notice. Let's bring in our correspondent, Hoda Abdel-Hamid, who's in Doha for France 24. Hoda, thanks for being with us. There's much to talk about, and I'm wondering on this particular day, what is it that is occupying your thoughts? What is your sense of what is happening?
Well, I think today was a bit of a lull in the sense that we had some loud explosions in the morning, some loud explosions in the afternoon, but there is a sense of apprehension among people here in Qatar, and I would say really throughout the Gulf, simply because this idea that Iran is just targeting U.S. assets is not really true. You know, in the weeks and days leading to the war, people were talking about it. People were worried, but people were always reassuring themselves that, well, anyway, we are not the target. The target will be, for example, here in Qatar, the Al Udeid base. Now things have changed. The explosions are loud. Some Qatari assets have been hit. Hotels in Dubai have been hit. Assets in Saudi Arabia. So people begin to worry. And I think among many of the foreign expats who live here, they are the majority here in Qatar, they are the majority in the UAE. There's a sense that maybe they don't know how to get out of here if things get worse. I think the one question everybody has all the time is, what do we do and how can we get out? If you I know there's some flights that have taken off from the Emirates. There's ways to reach Oman, but all of this, it takes a lot of risk, especially for people with children. And then it has a huge economic impact on these countries. When you have the Ras Laffan industrial complex shut down, that is the biggest source of income for this country. It hires thousands of people. This will have a ripple effect on the economy. And certainly, I think that the GCC that will emerge after this war is going to be very different than the GCC that entered the war.
Indeed, the Gulf countries represented by the GCC, Gulf Cooperation Council, they no doubt angry about what is happening right now with bombs falling in their backyard. And it's worth remembering, of course, that they've been dragged into this because I presume they were not consulted by the Americans before these strikes took place, even though they are their allies in the region, and so angry that they are now the target of Iranian missiles.
I think more so they're angry because they were very much against this war. They haven't allowed the Americans to use their bases to launch attacks from, for example, Al Udeid or other bases in Saudi Arabia or in Kuwait towards Iran. But I think there's also the feeling, maybe they're not saying it publicly, but maybe privately there is a feeling a bit of betrayal in the sense that these countries have had these bases here, the Al Udeid, the biggest base, American base in the region. There's many others around the region, and maybe they thought that this will bring them protection, and it actually did not. Yes, they bought a lot of equipment. Yes, they bought a lot of air defense systems, but by and large, the bigger numbers are going to Israel, of course. So I think there is that sense, and also there is a sense that they tried to keep out of it. Iran kept on saying that it will only attack U.S. assets. It's not doing that. And today I was listening to the press conferences here in Doha by the government spokesperson, and then also in the UAE by the defense ministry spokesperson. And both of them were saying exactly the same thing, that Iran has crossed many red lines, and that at the moment they have no sort of connection. They have no negotiation. They're not talking to anyone in Iran, and they reserve themselves the right to retaliate. Obviously, that is a bit far-fetched as things stand now, because if that happens, I think all hell will break loose, even worse than it is now. But certainly, I think that they feel trapped in the middle, and nobody knows how far this is going to go, because you have the war now, but then you have the after war. There is a power vacuum at the moment in Iran. There will be a new leadership soon. Will that leadership be a compromise figure for everyone in Iran and outside of Iran? Things are getting extremely complicated, and people are worried. The leadership is worried, and I think at the moment they're taking it day by day. But I do imagine that there's a lot of phone calls and talks behind closed doors with American officials, telling them that this needs to be wrapped up as soon as possible.
Hoda, thank you very much indeed for your thoughts. Hoda Abdel-Hamid in Doha for France 24. Hoda, thank you once again, and do stay safe.